For so many women, menopause is like stepping into the unknown. You feel the changes in your body, but you're not sure what to do next. And most advice out there, it tends to push just one solution: medication. But what if there's another way? Today we're exploring herbal remedies for menopause, a different approach that's helping women find balance without relying just on prescriptions. Our guest today is going to share powerful insights and practical steps that you can take to find the best path for you. So stay tuned and stick around till the end to get more information. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get more real insights just like this. Today's guest is Holly Bellebuono, an accomplished herbalist, educator, and author. She spent over 25 years working with herbs to help people find natural solutions to their health. Holly has traveled across the globe studying traditional herbal practices and learning how different cultures use plants for healing. She founded the Belobono School of Herbal Medicine and has written award winning books on the subject. She's here today to talk about how herbal remedies for menopause can make a powerful difference for anyone looking for a more natural, personalized approach. Hi, Holly. I'm really happy to have you here today. I'm really excited for our conversation. I know that you've learned so much about how nature could really impact our health. Was there a point in this journey where you realized just how important herbs could be and how we could take advantage of that and the impact they could have on our health?
Yeah, well, happy to be here too. So nice to meet you and be talking with you. I guess it began when I was in graduate school. I started as a gardener and landscaper for a local bed and breakfast and worked with a local landscaper. And he wasn't your typical landscaper. He was very woo-woo and hippie, and he taught all of us who were doing the shovel work about plants and how they were edible and medicinal, and I'd never heard that before. I grew up in a very typical suburban family, and we went to the grocery store for everything and went to the doctor and the pharmacy for everything else. My dad's a pharmacist, my mom is a nurse. Um, so it was a very straightforward health education for me growing up. And then to learn that plants, just the weeds in your backyard, could be medicinal was mind blowing. So I've spent the past 30 years continuing that education, sharing that with others, learning about the chemistry of plants, how it affects the anatomy and physiology of people, and why herbal medicine really works. And I just think I think it's wonderful to connect with plants and to feel that connection with nature. I also feel it's wonderful to have that self-empowerment, that sense of self-agency where you can take matters in your own hand for common basic issues that all of us deal with and really support yourself and your family using herbs, which I won't say they're completely safe because they're not, obviously, but they generally have fewer side effects than modern pharmaceuticals. They're easy to get generally. They're versatile. You can use them in so many creative ways, and many of them, especially the way I like to use them, which is as tonics and nourishing herbs, they're very food-like. And so it's really easy to integrate them into your kitchen.
I feel your upbringing kind of set you up for this. Your father being a pharmacist and your mom being a nurse. This was right in the middle of that.
Yeah, well, I was kind of the black sheep of the family, honestly, for a little while. Um, they didn't quite know what to make of me, but I've really enjoyed this path, and I really enjoy helping others, especially women, find this on their journey and learn how to bring herbs and herbal medicine into their lives.
Do you find that there are any misconceptions or myths that you would like to clear up when people hear herbal remedies?
There are quite a few. One that comes to mind immediately is there's a magic bullet. So many people ask me, I have A, B, or C. What is the herb I need to take to cure it? That's a loaded question, partly because as an herbalist, I'm not allowed to say treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any disease. So even if I know an herb is helpful for a given situation, I can't indicate that it cures anything or even treats anything. But secondly, the idea of there being a magic bullet, it comes from us being so used to antibiotics now that some antibiotics really do cure a particular condition, and they do it very quickly. And so a lot of people superimpose that onto herbs and feel like, well, plants must be the same, but they're not. So one of the things that I like to teach is that plants can be very nourishing. They can be very foundational. They can help you build from within. Sometimes they do change things and get you straightened up very quickly, but for the most part, I like to use plants as, like I said, tonics, nourishing, building herbs that are really food-like. And then, of course, I use reactionary herbs as well. So you have this condition, you use this herb, but there's a lot of nuance to it, and different herbs work with different people differently. They combine in certain ways. So a lot of what I teach is formulary. How do you make these blends and combinations so that they're really potent and relevant to what you're doing? So that's one of the bigger myths that I like to nip in the bud.
You mentioned a magic bullet, and I think that that's how we've been conditioned. We have a headache, so we want to take an aspirin right away and feel better immediately. And I know that herbs can be effective in certain situations. How do we get past having that magic bullet and knowing and learning something that could be just as effective? Because herbs act in a different way.
They do for the most part. So there are some herbs that act really quickly. For instance, motherwort. It's in the mint family. It's a weed. I've seen huge patches of it growing. It can grow as tall as a person, and the leaves are really bitter. So it has lots of effects in the body because it's bitter. It can help your digestion. It can help with nausea. But it's also an anxiolytic, meaning it helps anxiety and panic attacks in particular. So it's called motherwort. Wort means herb, and mother, having young children. So when a mom is feeling frazzled and stressed, or a grandmother is helping take care of her grandchildren and just feeling like you're shaking and your nerves are frazzled, motherwort acts very quickly to ease that panic and that feeling of anxiety. So that's a quick one. And then there are other ones that work as first aid. So they're very quick, especially on the skin or for wounds. And then other herbs take quite a while. So in addition to tonics that are very nourishing and food-like oats, like the oatmeal that we eat in the morning, roses, nettles, stinging nettles, these are high in nutrients, minerals and vitamins. They're very nourishing. They can be taken long term, every single day if you want, and they really build you from the inside. And then there's another type called an adaptogen. And adaptogen herbs are a little bit different. They are known to build your stamina, help you increase your endurance, and they do that both physically and mentally. So they help build your body's endurance and help you stay awake and help your muscles have vigor, but they also help your mind. And so they help you think more clearly, and they boost your memory. They help cognition. They help clarity of thought. So these are adaptogens, and there's only a handful of those, but they're very interesting and they can be very helpful, especially when people are seeking to improve brain and mental health.
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. I feel that lately, as a society, we're a little disconnected from nature. It seems that we spend so much time inside and on the computer and looking at our phones. Do you feel that that kind of takes us away from seeking, nature as a way to heal?
That's a wonderful question. And yeah, I totally agree. People don't get outside nearly as often as people used to, and on a regular basis, and for extended period of times, and for different reasons, to work and to play and to think and to meditate. I think people in the past were outside a lot more than we are today. And I think it has consequences. We feel more frazzled and we feel digitally addicted in many ways. And yeah, being outside, that was one of the pleasures of me in my early 20s when I started learning about herbal medicine. Was I was outside all the time. I was exploring woods and gardens and fields and seashores and anywhere, all these different habitats so that I could learn about the plants that grew there. Everything from little tiny herbs to shrubs to trees, even trees we call herbs, like the hawthorn tree or the ginkgo tree. They're all considered part of herbal medicine. So being outside can be incredibly healthy, and it's part of what I advocate for I teach a course called Herbs for the Brain, which helps people understand the herbal and food strategies for keeping your brain healthy. And part of it is getting exercise, and part of it is being out in nature, being aware, being appreciative, having a sense of gratitude. It all meshes together. It's not just herbs, it's not just pharmaceuticals, it's not just food. It's all of that. And yeah, being outside and being connected to nature is such a big part of it.
I read, and I'll hold it up here because, and I made all my little notes. As I was reading this, you mentioned being connected, right? And how, we could take herbs or we could be using medicine to improve our health. But if we're still doing all of the negative things, it's not really going to have much of an impact on us.
Yeah. And I'm definitely an advocate for balance between all of that. So, for instance, some people will, I had somebody say to me one time they were surprised that I used a bread machine at home to bake my bread because I was an herbalist. So, didn't I do everything naturally and from scratch? And people say that about medications too. You can't take an aspirin or you can't go on antibiotics because you're an herbalist. Don't you have to do everything 100% pure? And I really like to advocate for finding that balance that pharmaceutical medicines can't do everything, herbal medicines can't do everything, and what's right for you at a given point in time can change, and you're in flux, and you need to do what really is most relevant and useful for you. And finding that connection in nature is part of that balance.
I like how you said that it's not one or the other. How do you think using herbs and using, let's say, pharmaceuticals, that they can go hand in hand. They can work with each other.
Definitely. So, for instance, take anxiety. There are certain herbs that are really useful for anxiety, mild anxiety. And then there are pharmaceuticals that are stronger and can help really severe anxiety. So, being able to pair those at the right times can be useful. And then depression, for example, is much harsher and stronger in a person's brain. The chemistry is just different, how it affects a person. That's a good place for you and your healthcare team, which I like to say includes physicians and nurses and herbalists all working together to come together on your behalf, where you can say there's a certain medication, fluoxetine or Prozac or whatever this person is taking for depression, but it's causing side effects. It's causing nausea or poor sleep. St. John's wort is an herb that has been proven effective for mild to moderate depression. Let's see if we can wean this person off the fluoxetine and get them on the St. John's wort where there are fewer side effects. So there are different ways to accommodate. You can do both if it's effective. There are some herbs that you don't want to do both because, so for instance, if you have high blood pressure, if you're on a high blood pressure medication that's hypotensive, it's bringing your blood pressure down, you don't want to take hawthorn at the same time because hawthorn is also hypotensive and that can cause problems. That can make your blood pressure crash. So you want to use the right thing at the right time and not overdo it. And that's where working with an herbalist comes in handy because they can figure out what you're currently on, what would be a bad consequence, and then how can you take what's best for you, basically, because everybody's situation is individual and unique.
I hear from a lot of women who are going through the menopause transition. Anxiety is so much a big part of their lives. And I think for a lot of us, it's scary to think of taking an antidepressant, especially if you're not used to taking a lot of medication,
Yeah.
right? So I think working with an herbalist to help with anxiety would be very beneficial to a lot of women. How do you think how would you go about it if someone came to you addressing the problem with anxiety, especially, for women who are in menopause or middle age?
So I would look at diet. What are you eating? When are you eating it? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you happy with your weight? How are you sleeping? Is insomnia part of the picture? Are you a caregiver? Are you helping take care of kids or grandkids? Are you also taking care of your parents who are elderly? Just getting a sense of the social commitment that's going on with a person and how they're living their lives, because a lot of that influences how we react to stress. Like a lot of the stress that we're facing isn't going to go away, and we can't control a lot of it, the politics, the economics, whatever, but we can control how we react and also how much we allow to enter our sphere in the first place. Do you need to go on a news diet? Cut out news for a few weeks. Do you need to, let someone else take the babysitting job or the grandkid sitting job for a few weeks while you do something different? And then when you get to the herbal part, what are the specific herbs that are right for you? Do you have heart issues that you're dealing with? Do you have digestive issues? What's your brain health and what are your goals for mental health? Are you worried about Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, anything like that? Do you feel angry? What's the endocrine situation like in thyroid? Like if you have low thyroid, you're going to be sluggish and tired and exhausted. But if you have hyperthyroid, you're going to be manic and upset. And it also affects how you take herbs. Do you want to take them as hot teas or cold teas? Do you hate tea? Would you rather just take capsules? Do you like to cook? If so, what are the herbal powders that you can mix into all the different sauces and stews and oatmeals and everything so that you don't feel like you're taking medicine? It's just part of your daily nourishment.
Oh, I never thought about mixing it in as powders and things like that. Where do you find such a thing? I mean, I just when I think of herbs, I'm, out in the garden or you're getting them at the grocery store. But I've never heard of that before.
Sometimes you can get them at a really well-stocked health food store.
Okay.
They'll usually have a shelf or a row somewhere of herbal powders, and you can scoop out, a few ounces at a time and experiment with them. Or you can order them online. Mountain Rose Herbs is a company that I work with. I partner with them, so my students get a discount with them. But they're really good at purchasing sustainable herbs that are what they say they are, so that you can trust them. They're really reliable. Because something that you have to watch out for, if you get herbal powders in particular from someplace that you're not really sure about, they could be adulterated. They might not even be the powder that they say. Like culinary herbs and spices like cumin or coriander and turmeric and cinnamon, they can be, if it's not a reputable company selling these products, they could be totally different plants.
This is so interesting. And this goes back to the misconception when I think someone hears herbal remedies. Just incorporating these certain herbs into your daily life, it doesn't seem like it's such a big difference, but it's little things like this. What are different types of herbs that a woman, who, for example, for me, who is going through menopause would find helpful? How do you incorporate that into your life? And how do you get past the misconception? Because this is so very interesting.
I have a great herb as an example for this. So my course, Herbs for the Brain, one of the herbs that I really promote in this course because the research behind it is so amazing is turmeric.
Mhm.
So turmeric is it's kind of a Polynesian tropical herb. It's related to ginger. So it really grows where it's really warm. So for those of us who live where it's not that warm, it might be difficult to grow, but you can still purchase it either fresh. Look for it in the grocery store next to the ginger in the section where they have a little basket of fresh ginger. Sometimes they have fresh turmeric as well, or you can buy it powdered. And the way to get this into your diet so that it feels like it's natural and it's no big deal, but it's really helping you, especially as you grow older, is to use it as a powder. You can take capsules, really, which is just encapsulated powder, or you can mix it into your food. So, one easy way to do it. So, turmeric, one of the reasons it's really good for your brain is that it's lipophilic, which means it loves fat. And your brain loves fat. Your brain is mostly fat and it uses a lot of oxygen. And so in your brain, you've got your neurons, your nerve cells, and each nerve cell has an arm or an axon covered by a myelin sheath. And it's like an insulative cover or an envelope around that nerve cell to protect it and to keep the electricity moving through it all throughout your brain. So the myelin sheath is made up of fat. So you really need fat all in your brain. It's a big piece of your brain. And so for those of us who are on diets or we're trying to lose weight, one of the first things a lot of women do is they eliminate fat from their diet. It can be really dangerous, honestly, because you get papery and you get dry and you get forgetful because your brain isn't getting the nourishing fat that it needs. So you want olive oil and you want avocados and the good fats. turmeric, the herb itself, for some reason, chemically works even better when it's paired with fats. So butter, oils, milk, and it also works best when it's paired with pepper, black pepper. So it can be even 2,000 times more effective with black pepper. So a lot of us aren't used to drinking hot milk necessarily. I think of it as a children's nighttime beverage, right? Hot chocolate milk or whatever. But if you can get in the habit of making turmeric butter, where you just take the normal butter you use and you melt it and you put in a spoonful or two of turmeric powder, and you stir it around and then you let it harden up in the refrigerator again, so it's regular butter consistency. Then you've got turmeric in your butter, and every time you put it on your toast or your biscuits or your fish or whatever your waffles, you're getting that little bit of turmeric, and it adds up over the day, so that by the end of the day, if you've got, say, a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder, whether you put some in your spaghetti sauce or you mixed it into your oatmeal, or you baked crackers or bread with it, just a little bit of turmeric powder, so you barely even taste it, but it's there, then you're building up this wonderful healing herb in your body that is specific to brain health.
I love it. And that's such a just a simple little thing to do. You're just making it a part of your everyday.
Mhm.
Are there any others that you would suggest could be helpful?
Oh, there are so many. For instance, stinging nettle. I don't know if it grows out where you are, but it's a wild weed. It's got little hairs that sting you if you happen to brush up against it. And it's because of histamine and formic acid. It's got little tiny sacs at the base of each hair, and when you brush up against it, just walking by, it squirts the formic acid into your skin and it causes a rash. And it's not bad. It itches for a few hours and then it goes away. But if you dry it or if you cook it, all of that is negated and you get the incredible benefits of this leaf, which is really high in iron. It's high in phosphorus, it's high in potassium, it's high in calcium, it's high in vitamins. So it's a really nourishing herb that makes a great tea. So one thing I like to suggest to people is when you can either harvest it yourself or buy it um, dried, and you make a tea out of it. And what you want to do is either soak it overnight and strain it in the morning and do about a quart. You want to do a whole pot of tea, 4 cups. And then, or you can make it in the morning. And either way, you want it hot in the morning. So if you made it overnight, you're going to heat it back up, strain it, pour it into a thermos, and then it's available to you all day. It's really good throughout the winter. If you have this thermos that you can just drink from all day long, it's hot, it's ready. You can add a little bit of honey to it, a little milk, other herbs for flavor, whatever you want. But you don't have to make a new cup all day long. It's there in your thermos. So it's very convenient. And you're nourishing your body because 3 to 4 cups is about a dose of medicinal nettle tea. So that's how much you want in a day. And then you can also purchase and do the same thing with the nettles, purchase dried nettles. Do the same thing that you did with the turmeric. You can mix it into your yogurt or your smoothies. I like to take a little jar of apple cider and put a little bit of spirulina or nettle powder or turmeric powder or any of these other herbs into my apple cider and just drink it.
Okay.
If you're taking vitamins in the morning or supplements, you want to take it with juice or cider or something. That's a great way to get your other herbs at the same time.
I've got to be writing all of this down because I think I've got a lot of things I need to be adding to my diet right now. So, okay, there was one thing when I was reading the book I really loved. Can I read a little quote from the book to you?
Sure.
Is it okay? You asked this really insightful question and it kind of stuck with me. And you said, was it the herbs or the hugs or the chicken soup? And I thought that was so interesting because, well, I know why, but why did you say that?
So I mentioned earlier, I really get into I kind of geek out on the chemistry, right? The chemistry and the anatomy. And I really appreciate the scientific piece of it that Mother Nature brings, the chemistry. But I also really appreciate everything else. Like I mentioned earlier, the gratitude, the sense of awareness and understanding that it all comes together, that there's a physical side, there's an emotional side, there's intellectual, there's spiritual. It all blends. And who knows where the healing comes from? I actually gave this talk when I opened up a conference in London, well, in England, on herbal medicine, and that was my premise: was where does healing come from? Is it God? Is it a spiritual source? Is it the chemistry of the plants? Is it a doctor or a nurse? Is it yourself? Who knows? It's a wide open question and it's been debated for centuries, but I have to believe it's a little bit of everything. And I also have to believe that we're all capable of healing ourselves and others.
I would agree. I think it's a little bit of everything. And, um, sometimes when you're just not feeling good and you're going through a rough patch, it is that emotional connection to somebody else. And it could be somebody outside of your family or the doctor who had a little bit of compassion and sympathy for you in that moment. And I think a combination of all those things really goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. We need connection with Mother Nature, as you said earlier, with other people. We need the science. We need it all. And that's one reason I feel like, being a purist, like some people have said, well, you're an herbalist, so you can't do that. I used to feel that I was very much a purist. And over time, I've softened those edges a little bit and I've pulled in other things from other places where needed. And I feel like opening up to those various possibilities is really important.
Yeah, when we get so stuck on one road and not think that there can be other paths we can take to, ease our symptoms or ease the emotional side of life, we have to be open to that because otherwise you're going to get stuck.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind, you were asking how to bring in herbs on a daily basis for something that you need. Um, Roses. So roses are really important medicinally. And not many people think about them. They smell amazing. They're beautiful. They're the symbol of Valentine's Day. But medicinally, they're a really lovely herbal medicine. And if someone is dealing with an angry teenager, for instance, um, an upset teenager, a woman with PMS, and they're experiencing that anger and that bitterness, whatever the cause is, we all experience anger at some
Mhm.
point. Roses are a lovely remedy for anger, and they can be brought into a person's life in a variety of ways. You can make a rose scented spritzer and spray it in the air. You can get rose, either fragrance or essential oil, and make lotions or creams so that you're smelling it. And then you can also put it in your diet. You can make rose petal rice pudding, for example, which is a delectable, creamy bowl of goodness that is rose scented. And presenting that to an angry teenager or a woman with PMS is so healing. It's lovely. And so these are just other ideas for rose ice cubes. You can make rose petal iced tea and then put it in your ice cube tray, and you've got rose ice cubes for whatever you want to drink. Um, you can pour it into your bathtub and soak in rose petal iced tea. Whatever, all these different creative ways. I call it thinking outside the bottle so that you have access to these incredible plants in a variety of ways that are healing and soothing and nourishing all at the same time.
HRT is a really big topic, and you hear a lot about it in the news. There's a lot of doctors talking about it right now, including in their books and everything. But it's not always the right choice for everyone. And I think a lot of women are still afraid to go down that route. What can you say? Can you address that in any way? Because I know that there are a lot of plants that have the same, what would you say, same properties that we're looking for in HRT. How can women take advantage of that?
Yeah, so there are some ways to experiment a little bit before you jump in and make a commitment to anything. Phytoestrogens are chemicals inside the plants that mimic human estrogen. And so boosting your supply of phytoestrogens is similar to keeping your normal estrogen level up a little bit. And so there are herbs like red clover, and soybean that are really high in phytoestrogens. And, there are countries, Japan, which consumes so much soy where women don't really deal with menopause symptoms like we do, and they don't have to think about HRT. And one thing I can say though is, personally, and with my clients that I've worked with, I've seen licorice support the change and the decrease of both estrogen and progesterone in later life better than anything. And licorice, it's got hormones, phytohormones in it, especially aldosterone. But to my knowledge, it's not super high in phytoestrogens, but it has appeared to support that kind of balance that you're seeking as your hormones naturally decline. So that's one that I would suggest experimenting with, unless you have high blood pressure and it's not meant to be taken with high blood pressure.
I've heard black cohosh referenced a lot when women are talking about menopause. What is in that, or how can that help?
So my experience with black cohosh has been that it primarily supports hot flashes or eases hot flashes during menopause and premenopause. Um, and it probably has some phytoestrogens in it too. I'm not sure how it compares to red clover or soy. In my experience, it's been more for symptomatic relief rather than really balancing out hormone amounts.
Yeah, there's a difference between
Yeah.
treating a symptom and finding a balance. Right, I get that. But let's say that someone who's listening is interested in trying herbal remedies, finding an herbalist to work with, or trying to learn about it on your own.
Yeah, I always suggest seek out your local herbalist. There are lots of us out there, um, and I would recommend going on a local plant identification walk, get to know the plants that grow in your area, see what they look like, smell like, taste like, and that way when you go to purchase medicines that are already made, whether it's a tincture or a salve or dried herbs or cut and sifted herbs that you're going to make teas out of, then you have a sense of what you're looking for, what it's going to taste like. And then, education courses are always useful. You can learn so much about herbal medicine. You can go a clinical path, which is more nursing and more chemistry and anatomy based. You can go a foraging and wildcrafting path so that you can learn how to harvest what's near you. You can focus on different needs that a person has, whether it's pregnancy and breastfeeding, or it's menopause, or it's first aid, um, digestion. You can focus on respiratory health, so many different topics to learn in herbal medicine. So I recommend um, trying a number of different teachers for one thing. All the different herbal teachers have different specialties and they have different backgrounds, and you're going to learn something new from all of them. There's no one teacher, myself included, who can tell you everything about herbal medicine. So you really want to explore and just get a variety of experiences and perspectives. Books can be tricky because, so here's something that I just learned recently, is that with the abundance of herbal medicine information on the internet and herbal books out there, there is AI that allows thieves basically to capture what has been written in a book or on a herbal blog and repackage it and publish it as their own. And so there are a lot of herbal books on the market now that are written by bots. They're not real people. You go to look up the author and find out more about them, and there's nothing because they don't actually exist. It's a sad thing that's happening in just because of the internet right now. But when you do meet an herbalist and you like him or her, you like their perspective, you want to take their courses, buy their books, definitely. I would say, just be aware of the internet effect that's out
Okay.
there and don't buy books randomly based on the cover because it has a pretty cover or whatever, because it might not be real. And you want real solid information that you can rely on.
Yeah, so definitely do a little research. Make sure there's a person behind
Yeah.
the book that's out there. Yeah, that is an unfortunate thing, and I think so many people are taking advantage of what could be a good tool sometimes. But you know, Before I let you go today, can you tell us what you've got going on, where we could find you? What's happening with Holly?
Yeah. So, one thing I have going on is the course, Herbs for the Brain. I've got a beginner course and I've also got a certificate program. So, that is addressing brain and mental health. It covers Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, OCD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, and herbs and foods that address these issues. So, definitely check that out on my website. It's an online, on demand course you can enroll anytime. And then I'm really excited. I'm hosting a retreat in Italy in the spring of 2025. So the end of May and the beginning of June. Would love to welcome people. We're taking solo travelers if you want to come alone. We're taking couples. We're taking groups. All of us are going to converge in Tuscany. It's called Herbal Tuscany. We're going to go to botanical gardens, herb farms, an essential oil farm, hot springs. We're going to look at art and history and we're going to do Etruscan tunnels. We're going to do wine tastings. So anyone who is interested in herbs or gardening or health or just interested in relaxing is going to love this trip. So check that out. And my website is hollybellebuono.com.
That sounds like such a beautiful time. Not only learning, but you probably couldn't have picked a more wonderful location.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to be gorgeous.
I really want to say thank you for being here today, and your wealth of information is so, um, I think it could really help a lot of women who are sort of on the fence and struggling with a lot of different issues and just want a more natural approach to things. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. And I would just end by saying, it's find what works for you. Don't feel intimidated by herbs. Start with one or two if you want. Learn what you can and think about nourishing yourself. Don't feel that you have to cure something or fix something, but just nourish and feed your body and your soul.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. I think we all need just a little more connection with nature. I think we've gotten so far away from being present in our lives and seeing what's right outside the door. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on Real Insights. If you want to hear more about how other women manage symptoms naturally, order your copy of Empart Real Stories, Real Wisdom, Real Menopause on Amazon today. And don't forget to join the conversation at joinempart.com. Until next time, remember that menopause is a journey, but you're not alone.